Hi everyone, welcome to the video. So back on the banks of the River Severn for this session in Shrewsbury. So it's the first session back on the Severn for quite a few weeks for me. Conditions haven't been great recently with the high temperatures and the low level, but over the last few days there's been some rain, a little bit of colour back in the river, and it feels about the right time to be back on the bank doing a session. Okay, got 3 or 4 hours today, so I've got the rods out nice and quickly onto spots that I know have produced fish in the past. So I'll show you the peg firstly. So it's a nice scenic peg. I definitely wouldn't mind one of those houses on the far bank over there. Look at those. You know, that'd be dreamy stuff, that would. But yeah, this is the stretch. Not a great deal of flow, but you can see there's a bit of colour back in the river again. It's got a tinge of green to it. Looks a lot more healthy than it's been over recent weeks, and hopefully the barbel and the chub will be on the feed today, and we can get 1 or 2 to show you throughout the course of the next 3 or 4 hours. So the first third to half of the river in this light area here is relatively shallow, so I'm going to be targeting the second third of the river, from about halfway just over to about 1/3 of the way across towards the far bank. There's a nice bit of depth there. That area's done a few fish before. Right hand rod's out on a cube of meat, and the left hand rod has gone out towards that bit of staging over there, a little bit further across that one, so about 2/3 of the way over, and that's gone out on a red salmon pellet to start with, 14 miller. Now when I fished this peg in the past before, the far third has done bites for me, so I'm going to keep that back as a change up area. I'm going to bait that middle third of the river up. A few regular casts, ground bait, hemp, some loose feed as well over the top. Let's draw some fish into the area, hopefully get some bites flowing. Right, quick look over the ground bait mix then. So this is a slightly different flavour from what I've used over recent sessions. This is the meat Fierta from Dynamite at the Big Fish River range. Got some hemp mixed in there and some pellet. Feeders on both rods at the minute. So we're going to be loading up that centre line of the river, getting plenty of that into the swim. Lots of colour, flavour, hemp, small particles for the fish to grub around, and hopefully that'll position us well for the session to pick up some bites. Quick look at the hook bait options for today. Frankfurter Spice red salmon pellets, that should go nicely with the ground bait. Vortex baits, 14 millers in red. Little sausage shaped bags of I think they're about 3 mil pellet, so they're going to go out. I need to trim these ends up yet, and generally I'm not the greatest at making those, but they get the job done for me, so they'll be going out on the left hand rod, and cubes of meat right hand rod, and I'm going to spray those out as loose feed. I've got a couple more tins. That's about the size that I tend to go with, so always feel confident in that sort of size. Whenever the river gets into floodwater conditions, I'll increase the size, but at this sort of level, which I would say right now is low at best, that's about the size of cube of meat that I typically like to favour, and that's out on the right hand rod. Well, we got a bite on the upstream rod. Just a couple of taps, to be honest. Nothing too massive. Thought I'd strike into it. The fish is putting in some effort now, so it could be a barbel. Yeah, there we go, first barbel in the net. It's only a little one, but they all count. That'll do nicely. Well, first barbel on the bank, and it's a little bit better than I thought actually. So it was a really weird bite. So right hand rod, just a Cuban meat, nothing fancy. It's gone £6.2 on the scales. It's quite a long fish. Not many marks on it at all, big tail. What a cracker that is. That'll do very nicely to get started. Well, that was a nice start, wasn't it? Right hand rod there. So been in the water about 10 minutes. So just scattered a few loose cubes of meat just around the spot and upstream of it. Very, very weird bite. You know, it wasn't kind of what you'd say was a typical barbel bite, just a couple of, you know, very subtle flips on the tip. I was thinking it was going to be a chub or a bream, so you know, early in the session I was kind of keen to probably get a bit more ground bait out in the swim, so it might not have been a bite that I'd typically have struck into, you know, probably towards the middle or the end of the session. But I thought, you know what, I'll just strike into that on the off chance, because, you know, just get the rod back out with some extra ground bait in the feeder. And yeah, lo and behold, Mr. Barbel appears, and well, great start to the session. So I just brought the left hand rod in for a rechuck, get some extra ground bait back in the swim, and look at that. As soon as I picked the rod up, it was tight. Now the flow had disturbed the feeder over the course of the last couple of minutes, and just ticked the bait runner over a few notches, so it's dragged the feeder into that weed. So I'm just going to move the rod a little bit further back upstream just to try and avoid that. So a quick look at the presentation on the left hand rod. So there's that 14mm pellet there, standard knotless knot, size 8 hook, and there's one of those sausage bags of pellets that I'm terrible at tying, but that's going out. It tends to get the job done for me, so who cares what it looks like when it's the bottom of the river. It's getting down there and it's pulling a few fish in. So casting in this peg is not particularly easy because of the way the trees are. It's quite tight on the bank at the back. It's got to be a bit of a sideways flip. There we go, out where I wanted it. Not the most graceful cast, but you've got to work with what you've got. Well, the sun keeps bursting through the clouds. Not sure it's doing the fishing any good, to be honest, but it's nice, bright, gorgeous afternoon. A couple little taps on the right hand rod there, so we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, I think we're going to hit that. Well, bite on the right hand rod. And that's come off, and in some ways I'm glad that's come off, because that was an eel, and eels aren't my favourite subject at the best of times, so plenty of weed still out there, as you can see, but let's get that rod baited back up, back out on the spot. So that's the right hand rod back out, and you've got to say, with the overhead conditions, that's probably the bizarrest time of the day and conditions that I've had an eel bite for a long time. Very bright, and in my limited eel fishing experience, dusk conditions, also at night, that's when they normally come on the feed. Mr. Paddleboarder doing his thing. Hopefully that's not going to disturb the swim. Rod's back out though, so fingers crossed some more action over the next few minutes. So a quick look at the kit for today's session. These are my Corum 1 3/4 pound test curve barbel rods. Absolutely love these, they're perfect for the Severn and rivers of this size. Got a great action. Never miss a beat, these rods. ST4000 Shimano bait runners, paired up with those. ESP Synchro 12-pound line, re-spooled after the last session at Shrewsbury where all those snags absolutely wrecked the line. So that all had to come off. So fresh line on for this session. Well, you probably see the leaves and the branches behind me rustling away there. The wind's definitely got up and it's got a little bit cooler over the last 20 minutes. Had to dive for reinforcements and get the hoodie on, but the peg area now and the front of the swim out there is pretty much all in shade, so hopefully that'll aid the number of bites, bring the barbel onto the feed. Once that bright sunlight's passed and there's a little bit more cover, darker sections of the water out there, they'll be a little bit more confident grubbing around, and that'll do us 1 or 2 more bites. So I've just checked River app and that's showing that the gauge has gone up in the Shrewsbury area by about 12 centimetres over the last 48 hours. So I would have thought today's conditions, you know, given the river's barely gone up at all over the last 3 months, would have been quite good and a few bites would be forthcoming, but it's turning out to be quite a tricky session, to be honest. Just sent out some additional loose feed out to the swim with a catty, just spread it over the area, you know, just to try and create some attraction. But there's about an hour and a half of light left in the evening. It might be that the fish come on the feed a little bit more confidently once dusk starts to set in, because it's still relatively bright out there. But yeah, turning out to be quite a tricky session at the minute. Okay, so it's time to start exploring some other areas. So I've just brought the left-hand rod in and I've sent it out into the far third of the river, in line with that stump on the far side there. It's hard to tell if the flow is faster on that side than what it is down the middle. The feeder's holding bottom nice and easily, but I'm going to give... Whoa. Yeah, well, it's been a while, but the right-hand rod is away again. Fish is making for the far bank. Well, it's been a pretty slow last couple of hours, but it's nice to get a bend in the rod again. Mate, you're a good looking barbel, you are. Yes, in the net. That will do nicely. That's a good looking barbel, that is. Well, persevered, right hand rod's gone. It took a while for the bite to come, but I kept the loose feed going in. Cube of meat, right hand rod. Look at this for an absolute belter. It's a really long barbel, that is. 8 pound on the nose. If it was carrying more weight across the bottom, this would be scratching a double. I think it's only a matter of time though, probably next 12 to 18 months. This will be a really, really big fish. What an absolute stunner. Let's have a quick look at the other side. Spin him round quickly. There we go. Gorgeous barbel. Right, let's get him back in the net and get him rested up. Well, it was a patience game there, but the bite finally come. You know, sometimes you've just got to stick to what you know best, keep putting the bait in, trust that you're making the right decisions, and the bite will eventually come, and that's exactly what's happened today. So the session's been quite slow, but lovely 8-pound barbel there, really long, proper specimen. That's going to be an absolute belter of a fish, that is, once it matures a little bit more, fattens up and puts some more weight on. But yeah, rod's back out, half an hour, 40 minutes left on the session. Let's see if we can get one more before we've got to pack up and go. Well, it's really strange how every day's different in river fishing, in that, you know, the left-hand rod's done absolutely nothing today on that 14mm pellet, which has done me the vast majority of my bites so far this season. So I'm going to pull it in now for a refresh, and I'm going to put that on a cube of meat as well. So both rods will go back out onto their spots on the same bait. Today, for whatever reason, the right-hand rod's doing all the bites. They're all coming on the meat. So let's get the left hand on the same approach, see if we can get that in the game for the last 40 minutes of the session. Well, that change has worked. Left hand rod has absolutely peeled off. That's got to be a barbel. Took off at a rate of knots downstream. It's holding nicely in the flow, that is. Got to keep an eye on this weed again. It's definitely great to have a lot more weed in the river than we've had over previous years, but yeah, it's been a while since I've had the top eye of the rod jammed up and you can't do anything. That's the barbels off again. Well, this feels like a really good barbel. I've not had a proper look at it yet, but powerful fish, and it's been holding well in the flow. That's it, barbel in the net. Well, that change on the left hand rod's really paid off there. Big bite, tore off, definite barbel from the off. Could tell during the fight this was a good fish as well. Here we go, look at this. Whoa, stay steady, mate. £9.6 on the scales. Gorgeous barbel. Little cut in the top of the tail. Unlike the last one, this one's actually got some girth across the bottom. What an absolute stunner. Well, I'm going to be banging trouble when I get home because I'm going to stay for another 45 minutes or so. I've got both rods back out again. Both rods are now doing bites. that £9.6 barbel lead off for the left hand rod just after the change, which, yeah, that brings a nice bit of satisfaction there that we've had a result off the back of changing that one up. But I reckon there's one or two decent barbel out there, and I'm going to sit it out, do a little bit more time in the hope that there's potentially a double out there. So yeah, let's see what happens over the rest of the session. Wish me luck when I get home, because I'm going to need it. I'm going to be in for a kicking around the front room, that's for sure. But yeah, if we can get a decent barbel out, then it'll be worth it. Well, that's both rods back out again. I've refreshed the right hand rod, put the left hand rod back out after that last barbel there. Look at the light conditions. Absolutely gorgeous evening. It's that time of the night where the barbel become a lot more active. Fingers crossed we can get one more before the session's got to end. Yeah, so powerful fish on the left hand rod again. We got to bite in extra time. This one feels like a smaller fish. Plenty of head tapping going on. It's not holding deep what the last two were, but still got some life in it though. It's a powerful fish. So a little bit of extra time there's paid off. One last bite on the left hand rod. It's not as big as the last two, but still very welcome. 5.5 pounds. Another gorgeous barbel. And that's going to bring the session to an end. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel. Plenty more videos to come. And I look forward to catching you on the next one again soon.